Hi guys, we are going to do Excel Chapter 2 textbook project. Make sure that you have logged into Cengage and you go to the Excel Module 2 textbook project. Remember your textbook itself, if you don't have the paper book, is right here under the reading. It's going to look like this. It'll pop up in another window. In your textbook, if you start going through the pages, you're going to get to these types of questions here, to enter worksheet title and subtitle, 1, 2, 3. These are the steps that we do for the textbook project. Just kind of as a refresher for you in what you need to do. Make sure that you download your starting file. It has your name in it. It also has some other things to identify you as yourself. And then open up that Excel workbook. It's going to be blank. Enable editing if you need to enable editing. And we shall get started. In Chapter 2, we are beginning to start talking about formulas and functions, and we're getting some more into formatting, kind of some more things like conditional formatting, column widths and rows, margins, a little bit more than what we did in Chapter 1. Not too terribly complicated yet, but we're getting there. Okay, some of the formulas that we're going to be doing, min, max, average, they go through different ways of entering in formulas. We covered some of that in Chapter 1. I'm going to go the easy route. Yes, it's important to know how to do it, but in all honesty, 99% of the time you're going to do it the easy route. So let's learn the easy route. We're also going to talk about how to set up how the cells are displayed, the actual formatting of those cells. Is it formatted as a date, a number? We did accounting in Excel Chapter 1. So those are the types of things that we're going to be covering in Chapter 2. Chapter 3, we're going to start getting into some more complicated stuff, and it's going to be fun times. Okay. So we're going to, and starting in cell A1, we're going to type Olivia's art supply. For those of y'all who have run into issues with some of the grading, I am going through and looking at all of that. Please remember that you have to be very explicit in what you do. Excuse me. When it asks you to do something in the instructions, doing it part way or having a typo or, oh, that will work just like that. No, it won't when it comes to grading. They're asking you to do something a specific way for a reason, and you need to do it that way. And if it's not done that way, it's going to end up being counted wrong. Okay. In A2, we're going to type in salary report. And then we're going to start working on column titles. So in A3, we're going to type employee. In B3, email address. Hours, and hit the Alt-Enter key. They want you to do it on 2 lines, do hours worked. Alt-Enter will allow you to do 2 lines and put an enter into a cell. If you just hit the Enter key, then it's going to go, it's going to think that you're done typing in that cell, so I'm going to go down to the next cell. But no, when you actually want that carriage return in the cell for formatting purposes, then you need to hit the Alt key and the Enter key at the same time. In E3, we're going to do hourly pay rate. So hourly is going to be on one line and pay rate is going to be on the second line. So again, we're going to do the same thing. Hit Alt and Enter. My keyboard is really bad in accepting the keys that I type. I guess I don't hit them hard enough, so you'll see me backing up and correcting my mistakes often. Okay, in cell F3, we've got gross pay. G's and R's are especially annoying. Federal tax. State tax. Tax percent. Net pay. Hire date. And you should end in cell K3. Okay. In A4, we're going to type in Bennett, Joanne. Sometimes I just hit the wrong stupid keys. Okay, now we're going to go over 2 times to cell C4. We're going to type in 2 for their number of dependents. In D4, their hours worked, 64.25. Their hourly pay rate, $19.75. And then in K4, their hire date, 4/5/12. And then in step 6, it says to enter the payroll data in table 2-1. You can either look in your books, you can follow along with what I'm doing. I'm not going to necessarily speak it, but it's all here. Make sure you put things in the right columns. I'm actually going to change up the way I do this because for me, it is easier to enter everything in a column and then move to the next one. You can enter them in however you want to. Okay, I got everything entered. Now we're going to introduce a skill or a feature in Excel that's called Flash Fill. We want to do their email addresses in here. Okay. Well, everybody has the same format to their email address. It's their first initial and their last name at email.com. Okay. So Excel has the capability of detecting and understanding when you're doing a pattern. And then after you do a couple of them, then you can say, hey, flash fill this for me, and it will fill it all in there for you. And you don't have to type it all in. So I'm going to go here to Joanne Bennett, and I'm going to put her email address in. So it's J. Bennett. Make sure that you get everything in there spelled properly. And then I'm going to do the second one also, which is going to be M. Fred. Okay. So now I have both of those. And I'm going to keep my cursor in A5. And I'm going to click on the, sorry, I don't want to email them. I want my cursor in there. I'm going to go to the Data tab. And here is Flash Fill. Okay. I'm going to click on Flash Fill, and it's going to say, hey, okay, I know what you're looking for. And it's going to enter in that same well, it should have done the same, but it didn't. And I'm wondering why. I shall come back in just a minute. Okay, I figured out what I did. So I had, in Bennett, I put an E at the end of her name. Remember what I said about making sure that you spell it correctly. Of course, that's the mistake I made, and I didn't spell it correctly. I added an E, and so it didn't see the pattern that I was wanting it to find. So I corrected my mistake, and now I'm going to go to Flash Fill again, and this time you're going to see it does C. Emmanuel, T. Con, S. Mance, so on and so forth. So it gets it correctly. So now they all have the same, formatting. Now the side effect is, notice up here in B1 and B2, it did those as well. Well, we obviously don't want those. So I'm going to put my cursor in there, and I'm going to delete those. And now we are where we want to be. Okay. Row titles. So we're going to put our totals and things down in here. These are things that we did in Chapter 1. So I want totals, highest, lowest, average. Okay, we're going to change the sheet tab name and color. You've done this before as well. So we're going to rename that to Salary Report. And we're going to change the color to green. And they want it to be in the standards colors. Here is green right there. And then at this time they want us to go ahead and save it. Remember the file name. If you come back here to your Cengage, this is the file name that it's looking for. Olivia's Art Supply Salary Report, all underscores, and then your name after that. So let's do that. And I'm just going to find my right stuff here. My underscores don't like to work either. Okay, I'm going to save that. Give me just a minute. Okay, technical difficulties resolved. Okay, so now that we've got our basic worksheet set up, we're going to start now actually entering in formulas. Like I said before, I am going to do the simple ways of doing things. We're going to start with gross pay. Gross pay is an easy calculation. It's just the hourly rate times the hours worked. No special functions or funny things that we need to do or anything like that. So the difference between a formula and a function, a formula is going to be a mathematical equation of some sort that you create. So in our instance, the formula is going to be D4 times E4. Easy enough, right? A function is going to be typically have a word as the name, and it's going to have an open and closed parentheses. It is a built-in set of instructions that Excel does to calculate something for you. You can have a mixture of formulas and functions in any type of an equation. So you can do, D4 times E4 minus the sum of a set of numbers, just as an example. I'm just trying to pull that off of the top of my head. So you can have, it's not exclusive. You don't have to have just a formula or just a function. You can have an intermingle of the two. Okay, so we're going to do our gross pay. All formulas and functions always begin with an equal sign. So I'm going to do equal, and I'm going to say D4 times E4. Simple enough. Hit the enter key, and we get a number. Okay. Then I'm going to go to federal tax. Federal tax is based on your gross pay, and it is equal to the gross pay, and in our case, multiply it by 0.022, or 0.22 rather. Or, okay, let's change this. They want it the other way around. So I'm going to say 0.22 times, and then I'm going to say F4. And there are more calculations because you're also taking a deduction for your dependents. So you actually need to do a parentheses here. Excel is extremely adamant about order of operations. Okay, So you have to do your order of operations for your calculations to come out properly. Y'all should remember your order of operations, but exponents, parentheses, then multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction, and it's going to do it in that order. So if we're wanting to do this subtraction first, then we have to put it inside of parentheses. So we're going to take our federal taxes based on our gross pay minus a set rate for the number of dependents that you have. So I'm going to take F4 minus, and then I'm going to take C4, which is my number of dependents, and I'm going to multiply it by 24.32. And then I'm going to close my parentheses. Okay? And you should get the number I have up here. State tax, again, is it's a straight percentage, or at least in these calculations, is a straight percentage of your gross pay. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to do an equal sign, and it's 0.04 times your gross pay, which is F4. Tax percent is going to be the addition of your federal and state tax, and then divided it by your gross pay, and that's going to give us how much, what percent of your paycheck is being taken out in taxes. So I'm going to do an equal sign. Again, we want to do the addition first, so we have to put it in parentheses. So we're going to say G4 plus H4. Close your parentheses, and then divide that by your gross pay. Okay, and then your net pay is just your gross pay minus your federal and state taxes. Okay, so I'm going to do an equal sign, and I'm going to take my gross pay, and I'm going to subtract. But I need to take the sum of these two before I subtract it. So again, put it in parentheses so that it does that addition first and then does the subtraction. Okay. So now we should have all of our formulas. Now we're going to do our nice little fill handle. So that we don't have to enter in all these formulas again, I'm going to select all 5 of these cells at the same time. And I'm going to take my little fill handle here, and I'm going to drag it all the way down. And now it calculates all of our totals, or all of our formulas for us. Okay. I'm going to save this for good measure. Okay, so now we're going to do totals, and we're going to use the sum. Okay, so I want to take the sum of the hours worked, the gross pay, the federal tax, the state tax, and the net pay. Okay, so again, you can do each one of these individually. Or if you hold down your control key and click on each one of these cells that you want to calculate this total, and then hit AutoSum, it'll do it all in one shot. I really like that feature. Okay. We're going to determine the total tax percentage. So this is the same formula that we want here in this cell. So I'm just going to copy it down using the fill handle, just like we've done previously. And now we're going to start filling in our highest, our lowest, and our max. Okay, so here are highest, lowest, and average. So highest is a function called max, lowest is a function called min, and then average is AVG, or actually I think it's average. It'll come up. But you should know these from any of your basic math type courses. So I'm just going to type in equal, and I'm going to say max. I'm going to take my parentheses, and I'm going to select. Whoops. Sorry. Again, if my keyboard will work properly. Select the range of cells you want to do a max of, close your parentheses, and hit enter. Okay? Min is the same thing. It's just doing min. And then if you want to use your, if you don't know the name of it, you kind of want to search it, you can hit this formula button right here. It's insert function. And this will come up. Here I have my most recently used, but if you hit this down arrow, you can see all the different categories of functions. If you go to formulas over here, you have them in a drop-down format here. So you can do that in any way that you want to, in any way that you want to do it, it will work. Okay, it's the same thing. I'm going to go here under recently used, and I'm going to say average, and then I'm going to select my cells that I want to average, and I'll say OK. Okay, now we're going to take these three and we're going to copy them across. Okay, we are going to remove this one because it's mathematically invalid, that average. Okay. We're going to save it again. Okay. So a couple of things to look at when you're dealing with Excel and you're trying to figure things out. Okay, what happens when you don't get a formula if you've got the wrong numbers? If your formula or your function is producing the wrong numbers, something that you're not expecting. Well, you want to double check your formulas. You want to make sure that you are selecting the correct cells, because you may not be. Okay, obviously typos is a big issue. You need to make sure that you don't have any typos and you typed all the numbers in right, because that will be the first thing that makes a mistake in calculating something. But if all your numbers are right and you're still getting the wrong numbers, then you need to look back at your actual formulas and functions and make sure that you're referencing the right stuff. So in order to do that, I'm going to use this tax percent as an example. If I double click in here, notice how right in this area, it has the G4, H4, and F4 are highlighted in different colors. So this is telling me which cells I have selected where. And it's color coding them so that it's easier for us, instead of having to try to find H4, especially when we have super large spreadsheets, we can see it more clearly. So this is called the range finder. It actually helps you to detect to make sure that you're choosing the correct cells. After you're in this, you can hit the escape key, or if you happen like I did and I clicked somewhere else, you know, it's going to change. May try to change that cell reference. If that's the case, just hit the escape key. The escape key will take you out of any changes that you may have made. Okay. So we are now we're at the point now that we need to work on our formatting of this document, make it look nice and pretty. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set a theme for the workbook. So we're going to go to Page Layout, our Page Layout tab, and here's Themes. And we want the Ion theme. It should be default in all of, or not default, but it should be listed in here if you have Microsoft Office 2016 on a Windows machine. If you're on a Macintosh, you may have something different in which you need to go to a Windows machine. So I'm going to choose Ion. And then I'm going to select A1 through K1. Go to my Home tab, and I'm going to merge and center. Do the same thing for A2 to K2. And then I'm going to take both of these and make them titles. And cell A2, I want to decrease the font size, so I want it to be just a little bit smaller than the one above it. Okay, I want to change the color, the background color of these. So I'm going to go here. This is your fill color. I'm going to go to blue-gray accent 5, lighter 60%. So here's our blue-gray. Here's lighter 80%. I want lighter 60%. Okay. And then I'm going to add a border. And I want a thick outside border. So here's my borders and my borders and shading. So I want a thick outside border. Okay, and it puts a nice border around that, and this gives us shading for our title. Okay, now we're going to do our column and row column headings in our total rows. So A3 through K3, I'm going to select those. I'm going to change the style to a heading 3. I'm going to center them. A13 through K13, I'm going to apply the total cell style. And then I'm going to bold A14 through A16. Okay, so there's our basic formatting. Now we're going to format the date. So I'm going to choose K4 through K12. And I'm going to go here in our number format here. And I'm going to hit the down arrow. And I want to choose the we want a short date, but we want it formatted different than this. So I'm not going to use this little default. I'm going to come down here to more number formats. And in here under date, we want it to actually look like this. There's 2 digits in both the month, the day, and the year. And say OK. So now that looks good. OK. Now I'm going to work on the formatting of these numbers. So I'm going to take C4 through C16, C4 through C16, go the right way here, and I'm going to center that. Okay, in E4 to H4, so E4 to H4, I'm going to do the accounting number format. And actually, we want J4 as well. And we want F13, 13, and J13, all of those to be the accounting number format. Okay? To select those non-adjacent cell ranges, you're going to hold down your Control key. Okay? Then we want E5, so E5 through H12, E5 through H12, Control key, and J5 through J12. And that's going to be the comma style. Okay, and then we want D4 through D16 to be the comma style. Okay, in E14 through H16, so E14 through H16, and then also J14 to J16, we're going to format this as currency with the floating. So we're going to come in here. And you can either do the more number formats. You can also open your dialog box launcher right there. Either one will do the same thing. I want currency this time. And then I want to use this one here. So that's going to give us a floating, what's called a floating $sign. So the $sign is now going to stay flush with the numbers. And then any negative numbers, it's going to put into parentheses. Say OK. Notice how my $signs here are flush with the numbers versus the $sign here is all the way at the left edge of the cell. That is one of the differences between the accounting format and the currency format. Okay. Now we're going to do the percentage for tax. So I'm going to select I4 through I15, and I'm going to hit the percent style. And then that gives us a whole percent, but we want 2 decimal places. So I'm going to increase my decimal places 2 places. So that takes care of that formatting. And now I'm going to add what's called conditional formatting. Conditional formatting is just that. It's formatting based on a condition. So what is our condition? Okay. So in our case, we want to set a condition where these cells are highlighted if it meets a certain condition. So if it's greater than 72 hours, then we want the cell to be highlighted so that we can easily see that. Okay. So I'm going to select the range D4 through D12. Here is conditional formatting. I'm going to hit the down arrow. And I'm going to say new rule. And from here, I'm going to say format only cells that contain, and then cell value, I'm going to say greater than, and then I'll put in 72. Okay. Now we're going to change our formatting. So how do I want the cell to look? I'm going to click the Format tab. And on the Font tab, under Color, I'm going to choose a white font. So that's going to kind of go away. You're not going to see anything. But then under Fill, I'm going to come in and the color, or the fill color rather, here, for the background color, we want it to be the thick blue. So that's going to be this one, or sorry, blue. Okay, so it should be column 9, row 1. And then I'm going to click OK. Now you can see that's what it's going to look like. And if I hit OK again, now you're going to see, okay, those that are over 72 hours are highlighted in that color and we can see it easily. Okay, so now we're going to do column widths. We're going to kind of go between a best fit scenario versus a set width. So we're going to go columns A through C. And I'm going to put my cursor between C and D. And remember how your cursor changes here. And I'm going to double click. This is going to best fit my cells here in those three, just in those 3 columns. Okay. Column H, I'm going to select column H. And I'm going to again go between H and I. And this time I'm going to click and I'm going to drag it. And notice my little tooltip there up there that says width is 8 point whatever or 9. I'm going to drag that until it says 10.25. Okay. Now that can get really annoying trying to get that exact. So we're going to learn another way. Okay, so now I want column D, but then I'm going to hold down the Control key, and I also want E, and I want I. Okay. Now I can go to the boundary again. For any of these, I can do I can do E, I can do D, it doesn't matter. And I want to go to 7.5, so I'm making it a little bit smaller. Okay. If you're having a hard time getting that column width to be exact, the other way of doing this is if you right-click on any of these columns that you have highlighted, you can come down here to column width, and then you can actually enter in the numbers. So either way will accomplish the same thing. Okay, now I want F. I want F and G. And then I want K. And this one I want to be 11, so I'm going to set it this way. Okay, so now those are set to 11. Okay, now we're going to do this kind of the same thing with row heights. We want to adjust the row heights of these. Okay. So in between the boundary below row 3, we want to change that. So basically we want to change the height of row 3 to be 48 pixels, or sorry, 48, a height of 48 or 64 pixels. Again, hit below to drag that down. You want it to go to 48. Okay, again, if you're having a hard time, right click, say row height, and then enter in 48. Okay. Row 14, we want to do a height of 27. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to check our spelling. Okay, in the example, in the textbook, they actually had you misspell employee. I didn't really do that, but just in case you did, you can come in here, your quick tooltip toolbar here, turn on your spelling, and then you can do a spell check here. You can also go to your review tab, and here is your spelling here. Okay. So notice I did misspell address because my R wasn't working. So I can say change for that. This is spelled correctly, so I'm going to ignore it. And then it says my spell check is complete. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our printing. I'm going to go to the page layout button, or tab rather. And we want narrow margins. So I'm going to choose narrow. And I'm actually going to change this to the page layout view so that we can kind of see what it's doing. So we've changed it to narrow margins. Notice this is going across 2 pages. And that's okay right now. We are going to change our orientation to landscape. Okay. We're going to add a header here that says Jane Smith. And then hit enter, and it's Chief Financial Officer. And then I'm going to go to my backstage, and I'm going to go to print. Notice how it's still printing on, it's printing, well, I'm getting 6 pages because all of these are blank. So I need to go back, and I'm going to delete rows from here. It doesn't really matter how many, just so that it comes up properly. Now I'm going to go back to print. I have one of 3 pages, which means I've got extra formatting in there. Let's go into no scaling and say fit sheet on 1 page. Okay, so it fixed that a little bit. So everything now is on 1 page. You can print it out if you want to. You do not have to, because you won't be turning in any papers to me. Okay, if you wanted to print a certain range, okay, in our case we want A3 through F16. Okay, I can come in sorry, I don't have a selection. I can say print a selection. Okay. Right now everything is selected. If you went back into your main document, and now you choose A3 through F16 here, And now if I go back to my print, I can say print selection. It will only print that portion. Okay? So that's an option you can do as well. Okay, now we're going to go back to normal view. And we are going to display the formulas. So this is another thing that's really nice that you can do to double check your formulas and to really to see which cells have formulas in them. We're going to press the Control key plus the accent marker. So the accent key is the key right below the Escape tab that has the squiggly line on it. I forget the name of it, and then it has what's called the accent key. So you're going to press that, and if you go across, we want to see where row K appears. Notice the dates. Dates are just stored as numbers. It's the way that you format that cell that determines how that number is displayed on the screen. Okay. Here they want you to, you know, if you're to print this out, you do the same thing as you did before. File, print. In this case, active sheets. Now you can print all of your formulas so that you can see what's going on. And then when you're done seeing the formulas, hit the Control and the accent key again, and it's going to go back to your results. And then we're going to put our zoom level back down to 100%, which mine already is. If yours is not, you can change it. Page layout. Here's the scaling area. Okay, you can hit the scale to fit. And you can say adjust to, and then go back up to 100%. So now our scaling is back to 100. Okay, and then save it one last time. And then you can submit it, and you should be done. If you have any questions, if you have any problems, please let me know. And I will see you for Excel Chapter 3. Y'all have a great day.